like I just hear it like groaning and moaning. It must have just woken up or something. And I did exactly what I'm frozen for a minute actually. And like, if you like heard any songs played or like in movies where like stuff gets tense and like you can hear like the heartbeat going and pumping really loud, like that happened to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking like, all right, well, what do I do now? And like thinking back to what I studied up and how to react, like I banged my poles together just as it said. I waved them around to make myself sound bigger, like up against branches, and I'm like screaming at it as loud as I could. And yeah, I walked away. And every other one, like every website or anything I saw said, like, you see a bear, do that, go back to your car, call it a day. But this was like a scenario. Like I started listening to an audiobook of this really inspirational guy, David Goggins. He's like,
Oh yeah, I know David
he's
Goggins.
like toughest guy ever.
Oh yeah,
Like he's
big
just
time.
nuts. And I'm thinking like, what would David Goggins do? He would tell me, and like, no swearing,
Yeah,
get
I
your
was going
butt
to
up
say,
that
in a very
mountain.
vulgar way, he would tell you
Yeah,
to keep going.
you keep going.
Yeah.
So I was like, I have come way too far in this hike alone and driven all these many miles, waited however long to hike Allen. I'm not turning around. So I picked up my a rock, like as if that were to help me against the bear, but it was just maybe like a comfort thing. I put it like I held onto this rock in my pocket. Um, but overall, like Allen was a beautiful hike. I still fear the crap out of it, but I loved it. And on all trails, like anybody that looks at it can see Allen looks super steep, which it was. But I remember, I think I messaged you leading up to that, and I think it was you, where you said like it's just like any other mountain. It's like you just go and hike it, and yeah, like if you just take your time up going up Allen, it was just like any other mountain. Like yeah, it has these steep sections. Like the very end, I would say was definitely the steepest part, and that's just like any other mountain you do. Like the very last bit can be like the steepest part, but beautiful, beautiful mountain. Super cloudy and rainy up there. I don't know where you can go have a look out on Allen, but it didn't have the view up there, and that was all right. But yeah, beautiful. I can't wait to go do it again.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty underrated hike. Everyone is upset about it because it's so long to get out there, which I get. But
Hmm.
there's nothing like that in the high peaks as far as that sort of approach. And you're walking on all those old logging roads, and it has a cool, unique vibe. And I would argue that not every mountain has a cool, unique vibe. So, in my opinion, since it does, it's okay in my book. It's just
Yeah,
another part of the overall experience that you can get in the high
totally.
peaks.
Yeah.
So you got number
Um,
17 for
got
number
number
17.
17. I wore my Josh Allen shirt, and yeah, got it in the books. Next day, on August 29th, I wanted to do a bigger hike. Like I planned, I think, to do a bigger hike. I think I wanted to do the Dix Range just to try and get all the bigger hikes out of the way with, and like towards the end, do the smaller ones.
Hmm.
But I was still pretty shaken up from the bear interaction. So I went and did Street and I, thinking that it would be an easier day because I remember hearing it on your podcast. I think it took you like 6 or 6.5 hours. So I was like, oh, let's just go do a Street and I. That'll be easier. Which again, underestimated those mountains, and they like smacked me in the face. Like Street and I were no joke either. They beat the crap out of me that day.
Yeah, they're rugged, man.
Yeah.
Those mountains are, you're crawling up, you're crawling over, blow down, crawling under, blow down, going
Hmm.
around narrow trails. Like, yeah, it's a very rugged area,
Yeah. And
despite the
again,
short mileage.
yeah, just yeah. And again, if it weren't for all trails, like there's so many times where I had no idea. There's so many like winding parts of the trail. You can go this way, and then like I'm walking, and it just stops. I'm like, where the heck am I going? I would like lose myself. I don't even know how many times, but I got to the lodge that day, and what is it? A park ranger that like will greet you down there or something? Who are those people that are just say like, hey, where are you headed to today? Like,
At the trailheads,
yeah.
I've never seen one. I'm always there way before they're there. So I've
Oh,
actually
right.
literally never
Yeah.
run into one. Um,
Okay.
but I don't know who they work for, if it's the lodge
Yeah.
or if they're rangers. I don't know.
Yeah. But one of them came up to me and I told them where I was heading. And they're like, "Oh, you just missed somebody like 15 minutes ago. They're going to do Street and I as well." So I like went and sped, walked up ahead to try and like catch up to them and see if they would maybe want to hike with me. Um, sure enough, I got to them and um, what happened? Like I would never imagine like meeting this person and have them tell me all that were to come. Like is this guy who's originally from the Philippines and he now lives in Connecticut. And he comes and goes and hikes anytime he can. But I don't think he was in a super famous band, but from what he told me, he lived the crazy rock star lifestyle of like all this party and stuff. Like it was just nuts. Like I don't want to go like too into detail of everything he told me, but that was crazy. Of like meeting this guy from like an opposite end of the world and going and hiking with him and hearing his life story. It was just really cool. And with All Trails, like he and I both were getting lost out there. So like at the end, he like wanted to thank me for helping him complete a part of his goal too. He invited me to get a beer with him and his wife later on at Big Slide Brewery. So that was really cool.
Very cool. The
Yeah.
people that you'll meet out in the high
Yeah.
peaks, all
Yeah.
sorts of different people in different areas of life from all over the world. It's
Yeah.
awesome.
It's so cool. The next day, I remember I woke up and I really just wanted to go home. Like after that, I called up my girlfriend and I told her and how I was feeling, and she's like, "If you got another hike in you, if you wanted to go do Whiteface, you could totally do it." So I was like, "All right, let's go." And like it's a flip switch. I went from feeling like, "Oh, let's go home," to like, "All right, let's go." So
Yes.
yeah,
Yes, dude. You're
yeah,
like, nah, dude, we're doing this. Wow.
let's
The power that the brain has when you say, nope, it's go time. We're doing this. It's
yeah,
amazing the things that can be done when you make that decision and there is no more, well, I don't know. Nope. You're going. Let's go. And then
yeah,
boom. I love it. I love it. I live for
yeah.
that.
One thing, sorry, to just backtrack to Street and I. One thing I remembered too, like having to cross the stream, like that was super annoying. Like, yeah, taking off your boots and socks to cross the stream, and I hate walking on like round small rocks. Like that just hurts my feet more than anything. But I'm even then too. I'm just like, what an adventure all of this is. Like all
Yep.
that things you have to do to become a 46er. Like this is cool.
So the river was high that day then. I've never had
Yeah,
to take the boots off. I've always been able to hop on rocks. So I guess I've never crossed it when it was too high.
yeah, it was pretty high that day.
Cool.
But it was cool. Like, you know, still looking back, I didn't regret doing it.
Sure.
Or don't
So now
regret
you're
doing
going to
it.
go. So day 3
Yeah,
now, you're going to go tackle
yeah,
Whiteface and I assume Esther as well.
yep, yep.
And, Whiteface is the 5th tallest high peak. So it's definitely not a
Mhm.
small hike.
Yeah. And my girlfriend too, she warned me, like, just so you know, the very beginning is like steep, but
Brutal.
get past that, you'll be fine.
Yes. Going up
Um,
Marble Mountain is very steep.
oh man, I stopped like 2 or 3 times. I don't even know how many times going up it.
Hmm.
Um, but it was that hike where I met Sarah King and James Griffiths, and some of like if people like listening, if anybody has seen them on the hiking pages, if ever met, like these are some of, if not the nicest people I've ever met in my life. These are like great people.
Sure. James,
Yeah,
for all you listening, James is the person who was on the ultra hiking episode of this very podcast.
yeah,
So that's who he's talking about.
yeah. It was Sarah's birthday. I ran into them. They were leaving Esther as I was going up Esther, and I would pass them again, and like she had a whole group of people with her because it was her birthday, and she was actually celebrating, yeah, her birthday and becoming a 46er that same day. So cool. Um, and I don't know, like what came over me. I think I was just finishing up. I was listening to David Goggins' book, so I think that was giving me a little extra pep in my step that day. I raced up those mountains, and on my way down, or when I got there, I ran into Sarah's parents and some of her friends, and coming down, I stopped them and like congratulated Sarah and everything, and would later like reconnect with her on the hiking page. So those 3 days, the total was 38.7 miles,
Mm-hmm.
9,931 feet in 5 mountains.
There it is.
Yeah.
Big 3 days.
Big 3 days. Kicked my butt. And then,
But you went home feeling very good, I would have to imagine, and very,
yeah,
proud of what you did.
yeah, I was pretty pumped. Yeah. I don't know what happened again where I was like, I don't think I'm going to be like, those 3 days were brutal. I don't think I can be able to do 3 days of hiking again in a row again. So I'm like telling my friend about hiking, and she really wanted to like climb some mountains too for her birthday. And she didn't have much experience, so I was like, well, maybe we can go for your birthday weekend, but let's try and go do some smaller peaks. Let's go do some Lake Placid Niners. And I'm telling her about it, and that like you can register online, you get your name in the like in the completed roster, like it's like kind of historic, and you get a patch too. She's like, oh, I want to get a patch. That's awesome. We weren't able to do all of them, but with her first one, we did on September 11th, we did Catamount and Cobble Hill. And then the next day we did Bear Den, Pitch Off, and then the rest of the group like had enough. But I wanted to keep going, so I went and did Van Ho. And I don't know what that was all new to me about being like having that trail closed, and they were doing like a different route up there. I got totally lost a million times trying to do Van Ho.
Yeah, from the biathlon trailhead. Yeah,
Yeah,
last year when they changed the new trail. Yeah, it's you're not the only one. I got
yeah,
I got a few messages and emails from people who are super confused on that. So
yeah,
if you are going to hike Mount Van Hovenberg, due to the construction at Van Hovenberg, take the South Meadows Trail. Won't have any problems.
yeah. And then it was getting pretty late, and I wanted to go do Mount Joe after Van Ho, but I was like, you know what? I kind of want to just go hang out with the gang and have a fire, eat, and just relax. So I went went back to the campsite after that. The next morning, though, I went and did Mount Joe, and I was going to try and go do more, but I did Mount Joe, which is like one of my favorite, not just the Lake Placid Niners, but just one of my favorite mountains in general. Like looking out at the McIntyre Range, because I love the McIntyre Range, and looking out at that, it's one of my favorites.
Yeah, I think the view from Mount Joe, which is also one of my favorites, I think the view from up there is arguably the most iconic view of the Adirondack Park, is up there
sure.
looking at the McIntyres and Marcy and Colden, and just like that angle and perspective is just unbeatable. So
Yeah.
you didn't do any high peaks then on this trip up?
Nope.
So,
And they told me
nice.
too, because I met back up with them. I was like, meet up with me on Main Street in Lake Placid. Let's go. Like, I want to show you Mirror Lake, and let's just walk around and go to some shops and stuff. So when I met up with them, they all felt so bad. They're like, you don't want to go do any high peaks? And I'm like, nah, it's okay. And yeah, but in between all that, so it was like 2 weeks prior to that, I met Sarah and James, and we connected on Facebook, and I reached out and I was like, hey, that was me that wished you happy birthday and congratulations to everything. And we developed a friendship from there. And Sarah and I both like recognized that I had at the time every other Wednesday off, and she has every Wednesday off. So she's like, let's go hiking on the next Wednesday that you have off. And I was like, yeah, definitely. And I gave her like my list of all these hikes that I have left. And she of course picks one of the longest ones to help me complete, because it's a brutal one. It was the Colvin Range. Dial Nip Top, Colvin and Blake. And I was just, as soon as she said that, I wasn't expecting her to do that, but I remember I was sitting at work and I got like a little overwhelmed. Like these people that were just strangers to me want to go and help me tackle and help complete my goal. It's just, it's unreal.